Hi, MBJB listeners. In honor of International Day of the Girl, which is on October 11th, No Boxes, Just Verses presents Verses in Service, a leadership miniseries. This is a special 7-part episode series that will run through October 23rd. And across this miniseries, you'll hear from many extraordinary women, from tech innovators, culture leaders and icons, educators, filmmakers, cybersecurity and AI experts, legal and governance leaders, and community builders. Their story is a masterclass in service-driven leadership, mentorship that multiplies opportunity, purpose that outlasts titles and boxes, and community that lifts the next generation. So we're marking this day, this moment, by amplifying the voices that open the doors for girls everywhere. I hope you enjoy this special. This is Verses in Service. Welcome to this episode of No Boxes, Just Verses, the podcast where we go beyond the bios, beyond the titles, and we explore the lessons that have shaped today's most inspiring voices, all through the songs that have moved them. Each week, we build the playlist of a leader's life. 5 songs, 5 lessons, 1 unforgettable playlist.
Let's put the pedal to the metal, let the top lean back. I don't know where we're going, I don't know what we're running to. I'm checking for you, how you feel about that. I think it's time we rendezvous.
And today, I'm joined by not 1, but 2 extraordinary women. They're sorority sisters, they're sisters-in-law, or should I say sisters-in-love? And they are business partners. Together, they are building legacy, wealth, and community, all while staying rooted in authenticity and family. I am thrilled to welcome Felicia Mayo and Mica Mayo. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to read your bios so that everybody can understand the fabulousness of what you both are bringing to the world. And for you listeners who want to see some of what we're doing today, you should go to either the YouTube video or go to our social media, because we somehow all decided to wear green. Maybe it's all of our favorite colors. I don't know. We'll get into the journey of why the green, but this is a very green episode. All right. Well, Felicia, let's get started with you. Felicia Mayo is a transformative executive and human capital strategist with over 2 decades of experience leading people, culture, and talent strategy at some of the world's most iconic companies, including Block Inc., Nike, and Tesla. Felicia is the former Chief People Officer at Block, where she oversaw the global people organization for the brands that include Square, Cash App, and Tidal. She drove innovation through equity, inclusion, and leadership development. But her career spans industries from fintech to automotive to consumer goods and enterprise tech, with a consistent focus on aligning business growth with people-centered strategy. But beyond the C-suite, Felicia is a passionate advocate for generational wealth and early career development and inclusive leadership pipelines. She is the co-founder of Untapped Investing, and we're going to get a lot into Untapped Investing. She is the founder of the Executive Crew, which I am proud to be a member of the Executive Crew. And she serves as board chair of Facing History and Ourselves Northern California Advisory Board, where she bridges philanthropy, education, and systematic change. Her roots are deeply Southern, and she has a lot of what I would call Silicon Valley grit. She brings authenticity, strategic insight, and legacy-driven mindset to every space she enters, building ecosystems, not just careers. Oh, wow, Felicia. Such an amazing bio. I know you on such a personal level, and honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I can't wait to get into your journey. Next up is Mica Mayo. Mica stands out as a dynamic powerhouse from executive operations to finance with a penchant for driving revenue growth and transformation. She's really adept at inspiring people with her storytelling being her superpower. And I have witnessed her storytelling. I can tell you that that is definitely one of her superpowers. She has over 2 decades in the hyper-innovation, hyper-tech sector with industry legends such as ServiceNow, Juniper Networks, Oracle, and Sun Microsystem. After earning her MBA in finance from Cornell University, she returned to Silicon Valley and really did a lot of moving and shaking and rising through the ranks amidst the dot-com revolution at Sun Microsystems. She then found her calling working alongside sales and a go-to-market function, accelerating revenue and really becoming an expert, as we said, in go-to-market motions. At ServiceNow, she steered the internal lead to cash digital transformation, helping that company ship from $2 billion with a B to $10 billion in ARR in 5 years. Mica, that's a lot. She currently serves as an industry luminary, an investor, and a CEO advisor. She has moved also to be a franchise owner, and she owns a spa and a beauty business called the Now Spa, which I highly recommend in the Bay Area. She is the vice chair of the board for the American Leadership Forum, the Silicon Valley chapter. She also is a member of Black BC. She's a limited partner in several VC funds. And she, along with Felicia, have founded Untapped Investing, and they will get into that as well. So Felicia and Mica, again, welcome, welcome, welcome to No Boxes, Just Verses. I can't wait to get into y'all's playlist. So let's start with you, Mica. I know you grew up in the Bay Area, and the song that you picked is a first, is a definitely a No Boxes, Just Verses first. Listeners, she picked Is Not Easy Being Green by none other than Kermit the Frog. So a Muppet song. I'm here for it.
Well, I grew up on the Muppets. We didn't have any of this streaming, internet, none of that. In fact, I may not have even come into existence because it was just a few years right before I was born that interracial marriage was even legal, right? So that came about in 68, Loving versus Virginia. And so my parents, one Japanese, one Black, they met and rest was history. Interestingly enough, they met at Oberlin College, which is like the music school. So to be on No Boxes, Just Verses, it like all ties together. But I picked this song most specifically because I grew up, I went to pretty much all predominantly white institutions and schools. And so it just was really difficult to fit in. And I always looked at other people and wish I wasn't green, wish I could be any other color. I wish my hair wasn't curly. I wasn't my best little Mica. But yeah, I just wanted to be something else. And so it wasn't until later that I really got to appreciate the fact that, yeah, I'm unique. I'm different. That's not a bad thing. That's something to lean into. And so I think that's really what led me into my version of leadership, which is sometimes you have to create your own space, right? You're not going to fit into a box. And so being invited to be part of this conversation, I was all for it for exactly that reason. And so that's the song. It's Not Easy Being Green.
Yeah, Felicia, I think there's a lot of commonalities when I talk to leaders of color who maybe grew up during a time where there was this pressure to try to fit, like there was only one kind of model and you didn't have a lot of people that looked like you. So you just had to fit into this model, whether you did or you didn't. And it's not easy. And so I think that, you grew up in a totally different place. You grew up in the South, you grew up in North Carolina. You talk about being the only one that looked like you at everything, even as a very young girl. And the song that you picked was Breakthrough by the Temple of Deliverance Women's Choir featuring Karen Clark Sheard.
So I didn't quite pick the same song as Mica. I picked a gospel song because I grew up on the Bible Belt. Okay, so my story is quite different. Growing up on the Bible Belt, you're very disciplined. You have church. That is your foundation. And, growing up, for me, education was number one in my family, in the household. It was also, religion was number one, and then education was like 1A, 1B, right? In that stance, because education was so important and reading was very important, and that was something that my dad, who has since passed, but he was like, you can go anywhere and be anyone you want to be if you read. You got to read books. And so we had this mini library, what we called it a library. My mom was like, stop buying books. But again, having books in my life and growing up in the Bible Belt, it allowed me to see beyond my current circumstances. So I grew up in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, city on the rise. I didn't know until I left that it was number 10 on the most impoverished cities list in the United States. Like,
Wow.
whoa. And I didn't know that until I left the city. And that's probably great because I couldn't be held back by something I didn't even know was there. Right. But when I talk about just being, the majority was Black people. However, because of all the education, I had placed out of many of the classes, and I happened to be in the AP classes or the accelerated classes where I didn't have many people that looked like me. And it was a very low percentage of Black kids in my classes. So I didn't get to fit in. I couldn't fit in with my own community. And then I didn't fit in with the people that were in my classes. And you have to become a leader instantly in that scenario where it's like, hey, either you're going to break through or you're going to succumb to whatever the challenges are. And boy, were there challenges on both sides, right? And I chose to break through. I chose to actually lead through that with my community and with those that didn't look like me. And I am still connected to both sides to this day. And some I have deliberately chosen not to be connected with because we didn't have like values, and it's okay. But there was still respect there, and you kind of move forward. So I am, yeah, even though I'm here in Silicon Valley, people actually think I am from Silicon Valley. I am not. I've even had executives say, oh, no, you don't know about the East Coast and the talent that comes from there because you're from Palo Alto, right? And I'm like, no. Where did you get that from? I don't even live in Palo Alto. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just I'm not from Northern California. I'm actually from the East Coast. I'm from North Carolina. So leadership has been a core component, and growing up and being different, but still looking like those that are around you, it is a thing. And it is something that I've prided myself on because that gave me some early teachings of noting that you don't have to have people that look like you to lead in that same room. And then you can have people in the same room with you that look like you and you can still lead. I mean, it's just something that you're able to do regardless on what your environment is. So really pride myself on learning those lessons really early on in life.
So it sounds like you both, even though you were from totally different parts of the country, were growing up and dealing with the same type of thing with just struggling. And a lot of people struggle with this is where do I fit in? But you use that struggle to fuel you both. But it fueled you both to say that you wanted to do something different and you wanted to leave where you were because you both left and you wanted to kind of start a whole new kind of trajectory for yourself. So we'll get into let's go to this next phase of your life. It's your young adulthood. Talk about where you both wind up going, and it literally changes both of your trajectories in lives. Mica, you picked the song Big Energy, and this is by what?
This is
Lotto
Lotto and Mariah Carey.
and Mariah Carey.
And I like the bridging because I grew up all through a lot of my formative years were in the 90s. And so I remember when Mariah Carey first came out, but I like this song, Big Energy. I picked it because when I got to college, that's when I just became unapologetically me. And my maiden name is Eads, which starts with an E. And so me, like literally Mica Eads, M-E. I went to school in LA, and LA is just
It's very different than Northern California, and
It's
people
totally
seem
different
who aren't from
than-
California just say like, I've had people be like, "Oh, I'm coming to LA, are you?" And I'm like, "LA to San Francisco is like a 7, 8 hour drive. Like, they are not the same place."
yes, geographically, but also just the people, everything is just different. And so I remember getting there and it was very segregated at my school because again, I wasn't really fitting in. And so there was a it was our first weekend on campus. There was a big party that was happening. It was mostly, actually, it was all of the Black students at the school. And they were not trying to tell me where the party was. And so I am a very work hard, play hard, got a scholarship to Cornell, all the things, but I wasn't going to let this deter me. And so I went to that party and I was like, we are not going to repeat this "it's not easy being green" situation. And so I came with big energy. And from that point on, it was all good. Now that dovetailed into, there was a lot of racial tension, when I went to school. This is when we had the Rodney King trial and then the riots and the unrest and the looting that happened thereafter, which That's going to happen with this type of tension. But it wasn't just black and white. It was black and Asian. There was a shop owner that shot and killed a young girl, Latasha Harlings. And so there was real Asian and black, Korean and black. It was not good. And so that's when I feel like that big energy like dovetailed or manifested into a different type of leadership, which is authentic leadership. It's you got to still show up. You got to still be your full self, even when it is uncomfortable, not just for you, but for other people. And so that's really the learning that came about in this kind of collegiate setting and these years. This is where you need to be there. You need to help. You need to bridge. You need to clean up. You need to talk to people. And so that's really what I aimed for. So big energy.
But, a lot of people struggle with that. How did you get the internal, just courage, quite frankly? It could be a little bit daunting when you go in a situation where all the black kids are over here, all the white kids over here, all the Asian kids over here, and you're mixed. So you're like, I don't know where I go sit down. And are they going to accept me? Like, what was it in you that was like, you know what? I'm not going to let them say no. Because a lot of people would just be like, well, maybe I just got to be by myself.
Well, I feel like my mother really instilled that within me. So I'll share the origin or the history behind my actual name. So Mica, spelled M-I-C-A, the sound or the name Mica with a K is actually a very popular Japanese name. My mom, Japanese, her first teaching assignment, she's a special ed teacher her whole career, was on the south side of Chicago in the late 60s. She had a really tough time connecting with mostly the black students. It was predominantly all black students at the school. But she kept on just kind of pushing through it and the like. And then finally, one girl stood up, turned around, told everybody, shut up, listen to this teacher. She's been working hard. Let's give her our attention. And that student's name is also Mica, is spelled with a C. Whilst I have a Japanese name, my namesake is a black girl. And so I think just with that as kind of the nucleus of how I came to be, it was just inside. You got to speak up even when it's uncomfortable.
No, I love that. And obviously that has carried through and helped you in a lot of situations later on in your career. But you learn that courage and it works for you, especially with your time down in Los Angeles in college. And so, Felicia, you're also in college. I love the song that you picked. This song has been picked by a couple of other people. And so I always have to ask this. You picked I Am Every Woman. There is a Shaka Khan version and there is a Whitney Houston version. So we going Shaka or Whitney?
Well, I like the remix, so that's why I did both. Yes, it features Shaka, but it's released in 1993 by Whitney Houston.
You got to pick a side.
I'm not picking a side.
Listeners, she's cheating. Everybody else followed the rules.
I'm not Shaka, and I love Whitney. And so having that mixture, I thought was magical.
That's why she was a chief people officer. I get it. But Mica, I'm going to tell you there is one answer, and I love me some Whitney, but the answer is Shaka.
Shaka Khan.
That's the correct answer.
Shannon, you're going to
That's the
say
correct
Shaka,
answer.
okay? I love Shaka.
It's the correct answer.
I like Whitney, and I like the remix. So let me be more for a second.
Chief people officer. Anyway, tell us about your college days, and then I want to get into this is also soon thereafter. You guys wind up graduating from school and started a career, but soon thereafter, the two of you meet. And I think that's a beautiful story of how the two of you even meet because it changes everybody's life. But anyway, what's going on with the young Felicia who's very headstrong and making the world change in college?
Listen, I picked that song because there wasn't anything that I couldn't do, right? I always say, if I can come from Rocky Mount, North Carolina, baby, there is nothing you can throw at me that I cannot do, okay? So my parents raised a very independent woman. And sometimes that may have gotten me in trouble, even growing up, right? I mean, I'm like, you guys did this. You wanted me to be independent and have a mind of my own, give my opinions. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, whoa, that's too much. Well, I had them say that, but then they would actually check themselves and say, wait, we want you to have your own thoughts. So help us better understand what you're thinking and why. So great. And that's why I selected I'm Every Woman, because I took that with me to college, right? I was the first of my family to actually go to a 4-year PWI. And so with that, it was like, we don't know what we're sending you to. We can't even help you, but go forth and do great things, I guess. Bye. And I was like, let me pack my car. I'm up out of here. Like, I don't need you guys to tell me much of anything. Like, I secured my funding because it was very important to me. My dad was the only working parent. My mom was a working parent, but she stayed at home. She stayed at home with us, and that was her job, right? And so we didn't have money for PWI, North Carolina State University. And so ultimately, we did reading, my dad and I. And so I read that he worked for Abbott's Laboratories, and they had a Clara Abbott Foundation. They had a Clara Abbott scholarship, and I ticked all the boxes, and I was awarded full 4-year scholarship. And so my dad didn't have to pay. So I stayed in the best of the best dorms, and that just gave me a new exposure to everything, right? Again, came from this environment to now I'm at this huge institution that has like 30,000 students, and only 3,000 are Black. So we had a provost that looked after us, 3,000, to make sure we were successful. But I was rolling with people in my dorm that had like convertible Jaguars. Okay. I was like, and they're from different countries. And I'm sitting there with my little station wagon that had wood panel that I had inherited from my auntie that was like 80 years old. But I was like, I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to just pack my car up and I'm going to NC State. So again, I'm every woman. I was like, I can't be stopped. I don't care that I have this car that talks. And everybody thought it was so cool. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. But let's get in your Jaguar and your convertible and let's roll out this weekend. It helped me to understand environments, people, and money real early on in life, right? And I knew I had to have that drive. I grew up independent. Again, that was going to be helpful for me going forward. And I think all of those components were components that I use to this day as a leader. And so, some would look at it as, oh my gosh, it's so difficult. Well, I actually looked at it. I don't think I had time to even look at the difficulty of it. I look back now and I'm like, oh snap, I was so close to not going to college. And like, this is crazy. Even though I got accepted to some of the best colleges out there, but it was going to be money. I was going to have a barrier. And just to think that that could have stopped me, like, I'm baffled by today because of all those components. And I'm every woman, and she gonna make this happen. She had to speak in her own vernacular. She gonna make this happen. And that was how I pushed through. I had to do my own self-motivating to make sure it happened.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think that just that story that you shared about how you found the scholarship, nobody came to you. Like nowadays, all of us with these kids, you hiring the college prep coaches and you're sending the kids to these classes and you're like spoon feeding to them. That was a time where it was like, you just had to figure it out. And if you didn't figure it out,
You
it
did
wasn't going to happen for you.
right.
And I think that continued to carry on in your life, but it really manifested itself for you there. And so you both wind up going to amazing schools, doing really well. And now we're in our early career. And this is actually when you guys meet kind of early on in career. So Felicia, we're going to start with you. You wind up coming out to Silicon Valley. So I'd love to get how does one leave North Carolina? Because were you even dreaming of coming to California? I want to know how you make that move. But you do wind up coming to California, and that's how you meet Mica. And you guys meet at a sorority function. So the song I love, I listen to this song on repeat, like on Monday mornings when I can't get out of bed, is Keep On Moving by Soul to Soul. This song is such a classic.
It is, and I love the song, and I didn't even know until sitting down and thinking about this podcast, like, how much I loved it and how much I refer to it in my leadership. So much so, and I'll show this, I brought show and tell, is keep it moving. Like I said it so much that my team, my leadership team that I had at Nike said, we customize you a shoe, has pearls on it, and we put a saying here that you always say. And I was like, I say that? Well, actually I do. That was how much I embodied the song. But you ask, like, how did I get to Silicon Valley and all of that? My husband will say it was because of me. And it was. Prior to me being in Silicon Valley, I actually started out of college in a Big Five. I was with PwC, and I was working in New Jersey, New York during the week and flying home on the weekends. Had never flown before, Shannon, like, had never flown until I was
Never?
23. And the partner was
Wow.
like, "We wanna put you on this special project." Long story short, I was traveling back and forth. I took my first flight with some colleagues. I stepped out on faith. Didn't even know any of the process. Like, I'm just saying, "Yes, yes." That's all I'm saying is yes. And I get there, and I'm thinking, "How am I gonna pay for this hotel?" And they were like, "You're a direct bill." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Sounds great. And your car will be here tomorrow."
You've never had experience that first flight, and you're doing it with coworkers, not family. You had to be inside, like, shaking a little bit, like,
Listen, I was on a whole different level. Like, I was, like, independent, fearless. I'm not gonna mess up this opportunity, and listen, Imma get there, and we gonna all figure it out. So, I just got there, and I was like now I think about it, I was crazy. Crazy, I will say it, but I got on that plane like, I don't even know why am I here? This is crazy. I'm 23 years old, I've
I hope
never
it was a
flown.
big plane.
It was not one of the bigger ones. I thought it wasn't. So, long story short, I got the project. This was amazing. And I'm sure that partner, if he heard this to this day, he would say, "You are crazy." His name was Grant Young. He believed in me and then sent me to 2 other partners there, and they believed in me too. I traveled, but that's a whole lesson within itself. I think that how I got to Silicon Valley was essentially while I was doing that project, I met my now husband, and he had just come back from Silicon Valley, his first stint in a startup. And so he came back to North Carolina. I met him. I happened to be in town, met him one weekend. And then, long story short, he asked me to marry him right when I was about to take a role in New York. And I negotiated and said I wanted to work in the World Trade Center. Circa 1 year later, 9/11. 1 or 2 years later. And so he always says, "I saved your life too." And so I was like, "You know what? You probably did." So I ended up here in Silicon Valley because of him, which my parents thought, "You're insane. We have done all of this reading and in college, and you're independent, and now you're gonna change and mess up your whole life and go to Silicon Valley because of a man." And I thought, "Hmm, now that you put it that way, but I'm going." And this was one of those times I was still saying yes. So ended up here in the Valley and started working at some of the companies that are highlighted. It was amazing. It was just for saying yes.
you know, what's interesting about that is, we all come from a time where especially that generation would say, you get that good job, you got that good opportunity, you don't mess it up, you don't leave. And like you just said, you had never been on a plane. So the thought of your parents thinking that you're going to get on a plane and fly all the way to California is another country. People still think it's another country, to
They
be
thought
honest
it
with
was.
you.
It was a different country, and it was gonna break off and go into the Pacific because that's what the Bible Belt believes. And I was like, "What? Okay, well, I'm gonna take the chance." And I get here and I'm like, "Oh, this is nice weather. It's amazing. I've been built for this." And so I just kinda went into I was at the time Siebel Systems and started charting my way. So that's how I got to Silicon Valley and keep on moving.
And your whole career, I mean, that song actually could probably be used, especially from this point on as we get into the rest of your pivots and your career stuff. You absolutely just keep it on moving. Even today, I think you keep it on moving. But Mika, so around the same time you are in the Bay Area, this is where you're from. You picked, oh, I love the song. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. DJ Khaled. You and Felicia also meet at a sorority event because at this point, you both are members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Yes. So I was actually on the East Coast as well for my MBA. And at the time, why not move west and be part of the tech boom? That was me. Shortly after getting here and working at Sun Microsystems, which was amazing back then, all the things that now all these tech companies have, Sun had years and years before. I hadn't joined a chapter yet. I was a mentor for a high school mentoring program, and we had taken all of our mentees to Cal Skate to go to the roller rink. I was putting my shoes in a little locker and did a little step, as I was putting my shoe away. And then the sword was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. what organization are you part of? I then visited our chapter, Rho Delta Omega chapter in Palo Alto. Switched over. I had joined the organization in undergrad, but hadn't affiliated with the grad chapter just yet. It was at this Pan Hell picnic that I went to. Felicia was there. At this point, she and Kelvin had kids. And so I think one was walking and the other was still in the stroller. So real young.
Mhm.
And we met there. And I think we hit it off. Felicia had a great time because I was leading all the health programming for the chapter. And so my initiative, even though I'm finance, you got to have marketing. And so I had this whole thing called Working on Wellness. And so I even have branding, wow, everywhere. Wow on the t-shirt, wow on the water bottle, like wow everywhere. I wanted to spice it up and get people, again, maybe out of their comfort zone. And so we did all kinds of stuff, hiking, rock climbing, and then African dance. And so I think we all bonded at this African dance class. I think it was at Cal. It was in Berkeley.
Yeah.
And so, any case, so Felicia was coming out, probably trying to get herself right. And
After having the bees and
having the
stuff,
baby.
you're
And
working
so,
out.
working on her wellness. And
Yeah.
so that's how we started to spend time, get to know each other.
What a lucky, fortuitous meeting this was. We'll get into why. So basically, you met, for listeners who don't know, at a Panhell is Panhellenic, and that's a organization for a lot, especially African American fraternities and sororities. They get together as one community and do volunteer work for the community, quite frankly. You guys met at something like that and hit it off, thank goodness, or you wouldn't be sisters-in-law. But at this point, Mika, so you're working at Sun, is that correct? And you're just working on your career, and you eventually also have a young child.
Yes. So I think it was right before Sun was acquired by Oracle is when I actually got pregnant. It was an unplanned pregnancy with a partner who had no interest in getting married or having kids, and made very clear all along, frankly, that if I was going to continue, that was my choice, that I would be a single mom. The song I chose here for this stage of life is also a gospel song. It's Glorious, the live version by Martha Munizi. This really carried me through. I even climbed Half Dome listening to this song on repeat. I had some pretty bad postpartum depression, and then son's going through acquisition. It's like uncertain what's happening career-wise. However, at the level I was at, we had a great separation package that was being availed, but I was doing such great work. They decided, no, we're not going to give that to her. She's going to come on over to Oracle. And so what this whole season in life really taught me was you can oftentimes find strength through vulnerability. I have a painting that hangs above my fireplace. I have a good friend who is an amazing abstract artist. She originally was an architect, decided to follow her passion and to help and really promote and encourage her to go in that direction. I said, I want to commission you to do your very first commission art piece. And she said, what do you want it to look like? And I said, I have an MBA in finance. You're the artist. I don't know, but I want my piece to elicit two emotions, fear and vulnerability. She's like, that's kind of dark. That's deep. And I said, no, actually, it's when you're faced with those two emotions that you dig deep and you find out, who are you really? And so fear and vulnerability still hangs above my fireplace. She's now, amazing MacArthur genius. And so I'm glad to say that I have fine art hanging in my house. But this is all about really finding strength through a vulnerable period and making difficult choices that you need to because it aligns with your values. And so that's what I chose here.
Thank you for sharing that, especially the postpartum part, and especially, I met you way after this, so by the time I meet you, your kid is certainly is a young person, so you don't see the struggle. Like when I meet you, you're so put together. I never saw the struggle, right? I just saw the Mika that's the boss, and so I do think it is always very helpful to share with people. Like you see an end product that had to go through some stuff to be this end product, and Felicia, you were there when this stuff was happening. Before we get into your song, I'd like you to comment a bit on the fact that you were there when this was happening for Mika. You guys become obviously very close. And this winds up changing Mica's life for sure, that the two of you become close. So why don't you tell our listeners what winds up happening?
Yeah, so I try to be a matchmaker sometimes when I see all the signs are there, right? Especially being the people person, the people officer, and professionally, I happen to think that I observe people quite a bit and their behaviors, their qualities, just all the things for people. And I'm pretty observant, right? And so I had known Mika for years, and of course, had known my brother in law for years. And they had separate tracks that were happening, but I was kind of seeing both of the tracks in like front row seats, right? And I tried maybe one or two times to see if we could get them in the same location to see if we could get some connection going. But those times didn't work. And typically, Shannon, I will give up. Like, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's just not working. Now, I don't want to take on other people's stuff and be in the middle of their stuff, right? So, no, I'm just going to cool it off and be done. But no, I didn't do this. I mean, it was not like months, it was like years. It was like 1 or 2 years from the first time that I had said, you guys should really meet to when they actually met. Basically, there was an email that came out from our sorority chapter that said that Mica would be a blind date sorority event that would be happening. I had all the details. Now, typically,
It was
this
speed
was-
dating.
it was
So,
speed dating.
speed
Yes.
dating.
I don't even read these emails. Like, normally, I was just so busy that I would not even read all the emails that come for RDO. Please don't tell the chapter members, but they know. But I read this one and I thought, huh, Mika's gonna speed date. This is quite interesting. So I called my brother-in-law, which was in town, and I said, hey, what are you doing this evening? It's like nothing much. I was like, hey, I want you to go to the speed dating event. And I give him the whole rundown. And I'm like, I want you and Mika to meet, and she's gonna be doing the speed dating. So go. But I tell both of them, but it's just kind of in haste, like, hey, they're going to be there, and just threw it out there. Well, lo and behold, he went, she was there. This is amazing. They didn't even know how each other looked, or they kind of did, but not really. And he just went and he sat at the bar, and then the rest was history. They met each other, and then I didn't see him for a while, like, because he was always with her. And I was like, I guess things worked out, I guess. But to the point where my husband and I put his picture on a milk carton and like put it, have you seen? And then put his picture like they used to do back in the day. And like we went out to dinner with them and my husband like showed it to them. Yeah, we didn't know where he was. He never came back. So we were just wondering. So that's how we actually met each other. Quite comical. And we've been hanging out ever since. They've been hanging out, of course, ever since, but now it's been a thing where we always hang out and support each other, which is amazing.
Well, listeners, obviously, Felicia's brother in law, Steve, and Mika wind up getting married. So there is happily ever after from Felicia trying for years. I don't actually know the years part of this story. I didn't realize it had been years. I thought it was like a lot quicker than that. But I guess that just goes to show you don't give up. Like,
Don't give
keep
up.
trying.
If you see the qualities there, I mean, they're not married like 1 year. They're married, but what is this, year 12?
12.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a
So
long time.
just saying.
Yeah.
I guess
I mean,
people skills do work. I'm just saying.
well, thank you for sharing that story. So let's get back to you real quick. The song that you pick for that kind of time of your life is Man in the Mirror. And that's an interesting one. You're looking at the man in the mirror. Huh.
Yeah. So, during this time in my life, I think just starting here in Silicon Valley, actually, as you stated, I kept it moving, right? And I had been at some pretty great companies, and I had to make very complex decisions about my journey, right? And at least one or two of those times, well, one was for sure because of a leader that didn't have the qualities that I felt they needed to have at the level in which they were. And yeah, I was trying to excel my career to that point, and I thought I needed to see that because I don't want to be that. But I had to make some very tough decisions from my family perspective because I had young kids and just to keep moving wasn't going to be helpful for me. But I made the right decision, which is great. And I have to say, it was the reason why I selected that song, Man in the Mirror. A lot of times I had to sit back and look at myself, at the values in which I wanted to leave at whatever company I was at. But most importantly, the values that I wanted to instill in these young kids that I had. And they were seeing mom do a lot of, I was working, I brought them along. I didn't believe in work life balance. There's no work life balance. I was like work life integration. So I brought them along into even some of those companies. You'll see them in some of the commercials because I brought them along to better understand what mommy does. And they knew it early. But I have to say, the personal track through this Man in the Mirror too was one. I was young in marriage, young mom, and I was trying to do all the things, honey. She was being every woman, okay? And I thought, okay, every woman is about to break, okay? It's the complexities. Complexities, and I've always prided myself on trying to be somewhat perfect. That comes with being the oldest daughter, the oldest child, right? And I couldn't be perfect being a new mom and a new wife. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm about to fail. Like, literally fail. There were many days I woke up where I was like, I am failing at being a wife, being a mom. Oh my gosh, this is not going to work for me. And so I had to look at that reflection of trying to take pain and making it into purpose. I had to see how I could take those challenging times and make it more purposeful. And where I may not be able to share absolutely everything that I'm dealing with, but knowing that everybody goes through something. So you probably hear me say that a lot these days now that I'm in the other part of my life. I've come through it, right? So I say everybody has something. And that was also a learning moment for me as well as being the head of people, being able to look at people and hear what they're going through professionally and be able to sit back and say, okay, tell me exactly what's happening at home. How are you doing? I want to talk about the whole you. Don't just give me the professional you. You're not performing. There's a reason why you're not performing. And it's not because you've had every resource available to you here. What is happening in totality in your life that I cannot see and I will not be able to gather unless you tell me? And then I can help you from a professional perspective. But if you don't show me who you are, I can't help you because I can't guess, right? But at the same time, I had the same craziness going on, just like every other woman that's trying to figure it out. I used to always say, there's no freaking handbook for this. Somebody give me a playbook, give me a handbook, give me something. No one showed me that. And I'm supposed to just gather it, all the things I need to do by seeing my parents. Well, they didn't tell me everything, I'm sure. So again, I think Man in the Mirror was just one reflecting of, how do you take all of those lessons learned, any pain that you've had along the way and make it into purpose. And that's exactly what I did. But I can't tell you that when I was sitting in it, that I was thinking purpose. I was thinking, how do I survive? It's because I took that energy and I used it for good. I took any negative energy that I had where I thought I was failing and I used it for good to propel my professional career forward. And I will tell you, I got the fastest promotions during that period of time, and I had all the coins coming along with it. And at the same time, I felt like I still needed to look at the whole me along the way. So leadership learning was make sure you're looking at yourself in totality. You're looking at the professional you, you're looking at the personal you, and you're learning from each part of you.
I love that so much, Felicia. And I think that a lot of times we try to not look at the man in the mirror. We try to mask it. And one of the things that I want to hone on in what you said is that was also the thing that you could control. You can control the man in the mirror. And the man in the mirror is never perfect.
No.
Like you're never perfect. So it's really focusing on what are those things that are important to you that you can control and trying to get better for you
Yeah.
not for somebody else. And I'm so glad you said this. I get asked this question a lot. I know we all do. Did you have work life balance? You had kids, you had this. And I'm so glad you said no. And honestly, that's not even something I hope for is work
No.
life balance because it's not attainable.
No.
So you're setting yourself up for failure if you think you're going to attain this elusive, like beautiful balance. Look, sometimes Kyle Logan didn't get picked up on time. They're
Right.
sitting on the curb looking like
Exactly.
they need to hitchhike home. I want to take a second because we're about to go into what you guys are doing today. And before we go into that song, I just want to brag on these kids. We all have young adults now. And I'm going to say this. We did the best that we could. And I think they're all just beautiful human beings. And yes, our kids have ups and downs, but they all turned out to be beautiful human beings, young adults who are contributing to the society.
Absolutely.
And so at the end of the day, the balance, who cares? Because
Right.
really the end product is these young people. So shout out Jason, Kyle, Logan, shout yours out too.
Kennedy and Christian. Hey.
And Sachi.
Shout out to the young folks. Let's go into where we are today. Tamika, we'll start with you. You picked a Bob Marley song. This is my first. I thought I'd have more kind of like reggae or Afro beats. I think I have one Afrobeat song so far, but you picked Exodus by Bob Marley. And I know you are all about the building generational self and building beyond yourself. And, you've had great corporate gigs at huge companies, ServiceNow, so many, but you are at a point now where you're investing a lot in things that truly matter to you and your community. So take us through what is a Mica working on today and why that song?
So I'll just read some of the lyrics from one part of the song. So he says, "So we're going to walk, all right, through the roads of creation. We, the generation, tell me why, trod through great tribulation." And so I just got to a place where, yeah, same, tech, you can make a bunch of money for sure. And I was doing that, for my immediate family. But were we really, building generational wealth or just, another W-2 that could be easily replaced? And so I realized, am I living in my purpose? No, I'm spending probably the vast majority of my time not. And then trying to squeeze in a little bit over here to do and be for the broader Black, brown community. And so I've pivoted and I said, no, I want my purpose to be at the center of both personal and professional, because I have a core belief that it is absolutely possible to both do good and make money. And so I really opened my aperture to ownership, to providing access, to fueling the future of our community, the community that sets the culture for the globe. And so what I'm striving for is well beyond a title and a certain number in my bank account. It's for something much bigger. And so that's why Exodus is just such a perfect thread and song for what I'm after. I did 2 vision boards when I was first exiting a traditional corporate job. And it was so inward. It was all about me and immediate things in my life. And then about 4 or 5 months later, I did another vision board. And it was the exact opposite. It was everything else. It was, this tribe, this community over here, this planet. That's really why, like, legacy building and true, generational wealth. And as we look to become elders ourselves, what are we gifting and leaving behind? And that matters far more to me than all of those other things that occupied my mind, my life, and my time.
Yeah. That is, again, you taking so many lessons and really betting on yourself and really making sure that the gains go to not only just your immediate family, but your community. So you're a partner with Felicia in Untapped Investing. And so we'll get into that, Felicia, in a minute. But Mica, also wants you to tell us about your spa.
Yeah. So in this aim to move from operator to owner, and I spoke a little bit about some health challenges in the past, but in the tech sector, especially, self-priority and wellness, come on. You're gone too much and your job is with somebody else. So I wanted to make wellness part of not only my routine, but other working professionals. And where we have a clear gap is in getting that like spa resort like experience at an affordable price point at a location that has the same beautiful design aesthetic that's easy to get to and get out of as well. And so that's in large part what drew me to the brand of this particular franchise called The Now. I also am big at signs. And so my last corporate stint was with ServiceNow. The ticker symbol for ServiceNow is Now. And this brand is The Now. And so I love this. This is my way of making sure that no, self-care is not just a need, it's preservation. We need to do more of it. We're killing ourselves. And then I can also, same with the people part, as Felicia's talked about here, as a small business owner, I can make sure that that candidate slate is diverse, do some equity share and make ownership not just part of my life and the legacy or the generations behind, but other folks in leadership capacities at our business franchise. So that's the aim. Please, everybody make wellness part of your routine. And it's one of the fastest growing beauty brands, by the way.
I loved it. I've actually been to her spa. It is phenomenal. And yes, I am going to continue to make wellness part of my every kind of month routine. So thank you so much for that, Mica. And then Felicia, the song that you picked, I'm actually surprised it took this long for you to pick a Beyonce song because you are absolutely part of the Beehive. Anybody that knows you are Queen Bee fan,
Right.
but you picked of all of her songs, I mean, there's like a bunch I could have thought you would have picked, but you picked Cozy. So I'd love to know what you're working on, why that song, and then you and your sister in love here have a business together called Untapped Investing, in addition to some other things you're doing. So please share with our listeners what you're working on.
Yes, absolutely. So, yes, I toggled with trying to make sure I didn't have all Beyonce songs. Okay. So, Beyonce out there, Cozy is it for me right now in this spot because, and like Mika, just highlighting the words, she's a god, she's a hero, she survived all she's been through, confident, damn, she's lethal. And I would say just those words alone, even though I chose it because of the self definition and just the self worth that comes through that song. And actually, I walked out to this song at I was receiving an award in New York, and I walked out to this song again specifically because of the words there. And essentially, it's just exactly where Mika was highlighting is accepting who I am, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the things, right? And noting that all of that equates to, and my career equates to wealth and power. And you have power just based off of not that you're controlling, but just the power of what you can control. And I can control me and I can control my wealth that I have accumulated over the number of years. And I am at that point in my life where building legacy is very important and being able to generate wealth. I mean, generational wealth is key, and being able to make sure that I am giving back appropriately. So you've heard me talk about purpose quite a bit. And so I've been toggling with what that purpose is. And everybody on this earth has a purpose. And it's just you finding what that is for you. And I feel like a lot of the work that I've been doing as of late has been focused in on my purpose, is what's next and how I want to set up that legacy, not only for my children, but for those, my children's children and beyond. Like, who was Felicia Mayo? And I wake up with that first thing on my brain. I can't say that that's where I was 10 years ago. Actually, I was not there 10 years ago. I wasn't saying who is Felicia Mayo from a legacy perspective. I was like, who is Felicia Mayo today, just so she can get through whatever challenges she's going to have in the workplace. But I found that my superpower, actually, I can make it work for me and for my legacy. Like, I'm giving it out. I'm sourcing it out to so many others. And for their passion, why not try to feed into mine? So that's kind of how we got to Untapped Investing. Untapped Investing was yet one of those conversations that we were just kind of like oh, there's some meaning here. We got its impact we can make, and look at the landscape and all the things that you could imagine that we're having at dinner, all those conversations we're having at dinner. It was a culmination of all of that to say, why don't we see how we can impact the tech landscape? Because we got to know that there are some CEO founders that look like us out there that are in tech, but we just haven't seen them. But they're there. How do we ensure that we bring them to the top and we start to fund them? The numbers is another thing that really drove us because, hey, listen, we have all been in tech for some time. We know numbers and we know we solve problems based off of the numbers, right? And so looking at the numbers, we knew at the time in 2023 that only 0.4% were Black CEO founders that were
Mm.
out in the marketplace, CEO founders that were getting money, and then 2% for women. So these are huge challenges. There are trillions of dollars that are giving each year in venture, and only 4.4% look like us. That's a huge challenge. Let's go solve it. And so we knew we could do our part and use our money, which was our power, for good. And so that's where
Mm.
we are today. Our mission for Untapped Investing is just that. We are focused in on finding the best tech solutions out there and investing in them. Like, listen, this is mission driven, but it's also about being successful in the marketplace and making money. I don't want anyone to walk away thinking, oh, and this is all about social impact. It is about that, but it's also about making money because that is how we show the marketplace that there's value in what we're actually doing. And we believe that there is value. And we created an angel syndicate. So Untapped Investing is an angel syndicate based off of our own networks, our personal networks of people that are like us, meaning executives that have been in the marketplace that don't even understand or know about venture. And so we are teaching them. So there's an educational component to help them better understand what venture is. I wish someone had done this with us about 10 years ago, but this is yet an opportunity for us to ensure that we are giving back to the community and also bringing people along with us. So lifting as we climb, and we can ensure that we're investing into our own CEO founders. We have energy tech, infrastructure, media tech, ad tech. We have CPG as well. We have 8 portfolio companies in which we have invested to date, and we have one movie docuseries that we've just invested in as well that will feature HBCU CEO founders. So we are well on our way, and this has been in 1 year. We have amassed about $1 million in investing. So just know that anything you put your mind to, it will happen.
I love that. I love how you talked about earlier on in your journey, looking at the man in the mirror and actually prioritizing what's important to you. And then how in this stage of your journey where you are today, manifesting it, like sowing the seeds and now manifesting it. So in addition to all you're doing with Untapped Investing, you also found time. And again, to be clear, like you said, Untapped Investing is about social impact, but making money, clearly. You also have put your time and energy into helping others and to really giving back in a supportive, philanthropic way to the next generation. So let's talk about this group that you founded called Executive Crew.
Yes. So, Executive Crew, on my milestone birthday, I decided to bring Black executives together because I had invited them to my birthday party and I was like, may as well get them a day before. Let's sit down and talk about what's happening in the world today, in the industries that we're in, primarily tech. We got into the room and we were all having some of the same challenges. It was a confidential, safe space conversation. We found that there was more that we were going through that was alike than different. We formed this group where we could have the safe space going forward. And we thought about, like, how do we continue to lift as we climb? So I have a small cohort. Last year, we had a small cohort. It was a pilot to go through with university students to basically teach them all the things we wish we were taught at the beginning so that they don't hit the same barriers that we hit. We can teach them through it so they don't hit those things. And we could also mentor them forward. And so it worked well, and they got internships. So 2 of the 3 got internships last year, which was amazing. Actually, one was one of our portfolio companies that stepped up, and I landed one of our interns as well. So amazing. This year, we have a new cohort, and it is 5 times the size. And we have just landed all the cohort. They're from universities across the US, which is amazing. And so we're leveraging the executives to actually talk to and present their journeys. The executive crew will present their journeys to these students and help them, mentor them, help land them for internships. It's amazing. It's just a way to give back, and it's an area that I know really well. It happens to be a superpower for me. So I look forward to all of us, and because both of you are part of the executive crew, all of us really landing these students. And it's amazing. I've looked at them, and it's a 50-50 split on females and males, which I didn't even like, wow, who does that? And so it tells me that when you really focus in on getting the best talent out there, there's no problem in getting the talent. The issue is gaining the opportunity and exposure to the opportunity.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have a whole group of executives that are looking forward to doing that.
It's really inspiring what you're doing. You're not looking for handouts or accolades or anything. You're just in the community doing the work, helping these kids, getting them the exposure, and it's turning out into amazing dividends. And so you will be part of somebody's story when they talk about they got all the way here, but it all started with the executive crew that gave them their first exposure and opportunity. I can't wait till that story happens because it's going to happen. But also, Felicia, a little birdie told me that you might be working on something new.
Yes, I do have a project that I'm working on right now, which this will be the first time I've actually said it out loud. I will be launching a book. I'm writing a book right now, and that will highlight journeys in leadership and really just giving some of the insights that I've kind of learned along the way. This was yet an opportunity for me to really tell my story. So thank you. I'm saying it out loud. So now I have to put it out there. But oh my gosh, I'm working, I'm writing. And writing is not easy. Listen, it's a job. It is something that is your baby. It's something that is very near and dear to you, but I'm really excited about it.
Well, thank you. You heard it here first, listeners. We got the scoop. So you'll have to come back when the book comes out and we'll have to talk about that. So promise me you'll come back.
I will come back. Promise you.
Well, listen, Felicia, Mica, it has been so much fun hearing your origin stories, your journeys, your songs. But before we get out of here, I want to know, how can our listeners support you, find you? You both have so much going on that we want to be able to keep up with all the things. And then I also want to know from each of you, what is that one song that brings you joy? You hear it and you just have a big smile on your face. So, Mica, we'll start with you.
So I'm definitely going to have to go with Frankie Beverly and Before I Let Go.
Okay, Frankie Beverly version. Not the Beyonce version, but the Frankie version.
Why you got it? I love Shaka Khan.
I mean, I do like the homecoming version too, but I'm going to go with the original. I'm going with Frankie Beverly. It's just like the family song. You also do the electric slide to it. So there's all the things that remind me, and I never miss a family reunion. So in any case, Before I Let Go.
And how can we find you?
Oh, Untapped Investing. Visit our website at www.untappedinvesting.co, no M, or on LinkedIn. You can find us as well. And there's ways to get in touch should you wish to join and be part of the network and become a member, as well as if you have an amazing, innovative seed stage startup, you can also share that as well, and we'll reach out.
Awesome. And Felicia, what is your song and how can we find and support you?
Oh, well, I went Bay Area, Blow the Whistle. Too short, okay? Because, I would have given you some Biggie from the East Coast, but I just heard it over the weekend. I played it like 5 times, and then it was at a NWSL game, and Too Short was there, and I lost it. Like, I was dancing like crazy. So, yes, Blow the Whistle, that's my West Coast song. I guess I'm from the West Coast now.
She's converted.
Yes. You can always contact me on LinkedIn. I'm always looking there, Felicia Mayo. And then, of course, untappedinvesting.co. Those are all of the ways that you can connect.
Well, listen, ladies, it has been such an honor to have you both on the show today. So, we're going to recap your 5 songs. Felicia, I'm going to start with you. Your first song was Breakthrough. Your second song was I'm Every Woman, Shaka Khan version. Your third song was Keep On Moving by Soul to Soul, followed by Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. And we, of course, had to end with the Beyonce song, Cozy. And your bonus song was none other than Blow the Whistle, What's My Favorite Word? Too short. And Mica, this was a NBJV first. We had a Muppet song. We started with It's Not Easy Being Green by good old Kermit the Frog. Next up was Big Energy, followed by All I Do Is Win by DJ Khaled. Next, we have Glorious, and we ended with Exodus by Bob Marley. And your bonus song is Frankie Beverly's Before I Let Go. Ladies, your playlist, just like both of you, is not only full of energy, it's classic, it's polished, it's all the things that equals a vibe and fire with the AH, no RE, to that playlist. I want to thank you both for taking the time to share your lessons, share your vulnerabilities, share your sisterhood, share your pathways, and always just being there for not only, I know you've been there for me personally, but for so many people, both through your careers and now what you're doing to help your communities and the next generation. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being on No Boxes, Just Versus.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you for the
you.
opportunity.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to No Boxes, Just Versus. And if this episode moved y'all, please share it, rate us, follow the show on your favorite platform, and we can keep building our leadership playlists together. So you can find me, guys, on Instagram as Shannon Nash1 and No Boxes Just Versus on Instagram. You can also find me on LinkedIn as Shannon Nash ESQ CPA. You can also find No Boxes Just Versus on LinkedIn. You can visit our website at noboxesjustversus.com. Finally, don't forget to check out the show notes. The show notes are super important because this is where the playlists will live. You will be able to get these playlists on Apple and Spotify. You'll also be able to follow up and see how to reach out to the guests, follow them, and support them. Until next time, I need you to stay unboxed. You come for the stories, but you stay for the playlists. I'm Shannon Nash, and I'm out.